Hi guys, how you doing? Everyone good? Good stuff, good stuff. Okay. So today, interesting day, interesting topic as well, and how broad. I mean, we really do have to delve a bit deeper, I think, in order to find some answers, really, and get a bit deeper than we did last year as well. So, as Jeff says, my background is media. I work a lot with brands today. You know, I came from journalism and storytelling, went into brand creation, and I mean, really, you know, the area that I work in is the story of trust. How do companies, how do people tell better stories so that they're trusted and people engage with them more? And what we see at the moment, I suppose, is that there is a very low level of trust between execs and workers and so on and so forth. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a question. In fact, a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you feel like you're getting on this year versus last year? Hands up who thinks they're having a better year than last year. And hands up who feel it's harder than last year. Sort of 50-50, that's interesting. Okay, any reasons why? Any reasons for the why it's better this year?
Pandemic is over.
Say again? Pandemic's over, that's a good one. Yep, any others for why it's better? I like positive people.
People are collaborating more.
Really? You're seeing that? Okay, great stuff. Anyone else? And any reasons why it's harder this year?
Uncertainty in what's happening with our economy at the moment.
Yep.
And the challenges we have with that as well.
There's a lot of challenges right now, that's true. Anyone else? One more?
Productivity has dropped tremendously.
And why do you think that is?
I think it's an aftermath of COVID.
Interesting.
Lots of things that were happening towards that.
Yeah. Interesting, we've got 50-50 there as well. I think that's really, that's very cool. So thank you very much. Now, a quick question before we go into the research I want to talk to you about. Let's play a word association game to warm you all up, okay? So I want you to shout out the first word you think of when I say this, okay? New York.
Apple.
Apple. Did someone say that? Okay. Audi. German. Okay. Someone said something else?
Reliable.
Car, reliable, okay. What else have we got? We've got lawyers. So the point is, we all have these sort of monkey brain thoughts about what these words are, and that's the story of trust that the monkey brain jumps to immediately. And what we're working with when we're talking about trust is that some of those impulses, and when we're talking about brands as well, are the things that the monkey brain jumps to immediately, and we kind of justify our reasoning for it. The rational brain kicks in later on. But we're dealing with all of this while all of these pressures come in, while we have very little time to make decisions, and there's more and more noise. We ran some research this year. We just surveyed a very quick, dirty pulse survey on 100 CXOs across the UK and America. We asked them what their pressures were, or what was stopping them, moving forward. They couldn't sell, decision making was taking longer, access to capital was really hard, and the political landscape was tough. The next thing they said was, what's going to help that? Actually, what they thought was that what they were looking at was the competitors. They were really interested in what competitors were doing because they were looking over their shoulders. But when we asked the question, what is it, do you know your customers well enough? Almost all of them said either no, not well enough, or absolutely not well enough. Really, like they really need to know them more. So in terms of what people are looking at, they're looking over their shoulders as opposed to necessarily looking forward as much as they should. The final question that we asked them was around, how do you feel about external advisors and external third parties coming and approaching you when you don't know them? Would you let them in your inbox? Would you talk to them? Would you pick the phone? No, don't want to know. I don't want to receive those calls. So there is a question around trust. How you build that trust with people and that rapport is seriously, it's a real question when we're relying on these channels like email. People seem to have gone back to pre-COVID almost approaches to sort of reaching out to folks as opposed to thinking about a post-COVID approach. And we're seeing that with social media, where people are using their not just posting things, but actually being very present and talking about their human stories. Those kinds of things are getting a lot more engagement in marketing because you can actually listen to someone. You don't have to pick up the call to hear about them. And we're seeing a lot more success from those things and a lot more failure in the traditional methods of marketing and sort of outbound, so to speak. So one of the other things that we see, and the great thing about this panel is they're probably going to dip into some of these areas as well in quite a lot of depth, which is great. But mental health keeps coming up again and again in terms of how people feel and what the sentiment is. And obviously we did a lot of sentiment research with what we do. But the two things that keep coming up again and again for us are how confident a brand or a company feels about what it can deliver. And we often see they're not as confident as they make out that they always are when it comes to actually selling or when it comes to marketing. They don't always claim the areas that they should when they've got great capabilities. So confidence is a big question in communications. And the second one is contribution. And this one has changed the game for us, because what we've seen with companies who understand their contribution is that the employees understand the contribution that they're making. I'm not talking vision and mission. We've seen that the engagement with those things really drop off. But contribution and personality, everybody can relate to that. And actually when you understand it yourself and what that company does and that brand does in a wider sense, the customer then understands it and other people understand it. And that starts to become the story of trust. Now, some people challenge me on that and say, well, you're just talking about purpose. Well, Darth Vader had a purpose, but he didn't contribute a lot to society. So that's my response to that one. So.